But I've been looking forward to talking to you, and this is probably the longest this weekend. I don't think I talked to you much all weekend, so it's great to see you. So tell me a little bit. Lauren Burke's in the room. Hey, Lauren, great to see Lauren. She's been firing away on, I don't know if you've been following Black Virginia News on Substack every day when you look at it. A lot of Black history in the sense of a lot of going back to, I mean, from Memorial Day weekend, remembering the participation of Black Americans in our country, which is like, I'm glad she's continued to post because right now in this environment, we are the ones that are the keepers of our history. And just like your own family history, you better talk about it, right? You better
Yeah,
talk.
so
Mhm.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I, had a chance to sort of peruse through Substack before, and I actually took a picture of what Lauren has posted for
Oh, you,
today, and
oh, how,
yeah,
I
because
didn't
I
even
just
know that.
yeah,
Huh.
I thought it was really beautiful. It's this picture, and it's Black people are the architects, the blueprint, the playbook. And it has all of these things. Our struggle built the tools, our wins opened the doors, our legacy lights the way. And she has all the years. We fight, we build, we win together. And it's really all of the things that they've talked about: equal rights for all, voting rights, jobs for now for all, freedom. And I think that that is sort of perfect to what I want to talk about today in
Right.
terms of hope and fear and passion and how they all fit together. And I, have attended several meetings. I attended a lot this weekend. I attended a virtual summit, which was just really, really good in terms of the information that it delivered, which is going to be so powerful for people. But I did walk away feeling some kind of way. And I think the way that I felt was wondering if folks on the phone understood the level of disengagement that's with the people on the ground. So when I say that, I just mean when you just look around, if you
Right.
just look at your Facebook or your Twitter or your Instagram or your friends and parties and everything that's happening, it feels like, we talk about having joy and being able to bring all those things in. But what it feels like to me is a level of people, the attention deficit, I guess is what
Right.
I call it. The attention deficit is bigger than what I think people realize. And so for me, it is, what do we do in order to sort of balance hope and fear? Because, how do you mesh the two together? One is not more powerful than the other, but the two used together the right way is how we get people to pay attention so that you can get to what's gonna happen down the road. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always the tight we talk about walking on the tightrope is that you need enough fear to get people's asses up and working on stuff, right? But you have to balance the idea of optimism because otherwise people give up. And I think that's like psychological. But in this, I mean, that's the psychology of people. And I think one thing about our work is that we have to be super in tune with what the everyday person is doing. And that's why when you go into salons and hair shops and Walmart and realize that regular people are functioning at a certain level, really not paying attention. So how do you, it's always our conundrum every week. We really talk about how we need to get through to people. And, when I think about like, for instance, all the people on the call or in these big nonprofit, organizations or maybe get out the vote. And I was at my community church today and they have people working on social justice and get out the vote, registering to vote. And I started to engage them around that. Like, how are you going to do get out the vote? How are you thinking about it? So I kind of work talking with them like different ways to do it, to talk to people. When you just talk about registering to vote, it sounds you know, so not boring, but I feel like it's the same thing every year. Like, of course, we're registering to vote, but I think the difference is that whenever you do you have an opportunity to have a conversation, then you have to mix you just have to talk to people and tell them what's going on. And then you could talk about, I don't think it's just talking about registering to vote. I think it's really talking to people and then getting them to do things like, are you registered? Did you talk to your friends? This is super serious what's going on. These midterms will determine this. So I think in every action right now, no matter what we're doing, I think it can't just be a one off conversation. I think it has to be that it's time to really educate and then ask people how they'd like to get involved or, you know, you know what I mean? You just can't do the normal. Like sending text to people asking for $10 is this just making people disengage, right?
So Dorothy says that you have an echo. I don't know if there's anything that you can do or
Oh,
if
do I?
anybody else is hearing the echo. Is anybody else hearing the echo? If you are, will you just let us know so that Dorothy knows that she might just need to go out and come back?
Mm, okay. Let me just say this to everybody. So this is a new computer. I'm on a brand new computer. I have not used its internal microphone. So I'm going to let you talk and I'm going to see if I have the right mic on.
Okay.
It's brand new. I had to go Friday because my computer failed. Let me go check
Okay.
that out. Go-
So you can check it out, but Lauren says that she doesn't have an echo, so it might mean that
Mm,
that Dorothy needs to go out and come back in again. So let me talk a bit about what you said about optimism, and started to sort of dig into this because I've been so bothered this weekend about this whole idea about how we're going about the work that we're doing. And I wanted to take it back to what you talked about last week when I sent you the article from Jane Goodall's grandson about hope.
right,
And the way that I'm seeing this is I consider myself a very optimistic person. I want to see things work out, and that is what optimism is. Optimism is we're going to make it through this, and you give people that optimistic view. But hope is more what you talked about last week, which
right.
is hope is work. So hope is the work part. So
Yes, the
you
action
talked
part.
about
Mhm.
exactly. So when you think about hope and fear, the things that I am not ashamed to say, I it's not stopping me from working, but I am afraid about what is to come. But hope is what I use to keep on doing the work, and optimism is what I use to say, "Don't get exhausted, don't get tired, don't get paralyzed." So the question is, how do we get all of these people around us using what Republicans use all the time, which is fear to get
Right,
people into action. So it gets their attention. So what I mean by that is I think about a train wreck, right? If you see a train or car crash,
right.
everybody stops because everybody wants to see, right?
Yeah,
But what happens but then after the crash is over, they just keep on going and they're off to the next thing. So, what we have to do is really talk about what is happening here. Jess Piper posted something this week about Missouri,
right,
and what she said is that they spent all of this time in their legislative meetings, telling people that they don't want them to buy candy and soda and all that stuff with their SNAP benefits. Whatever happened to it?
right,
But now said that they should have food that is better for them. But then now they just passed a budget that eliminates $2 million from the ability to buy fruits and vegetables. So this is what Republicans do. Now the question is, that is to me fear because people can think about the fact that, geez, I'm not able to buy the things that my family needs to eat. So you talk
right,
about what that does to people. And then you sort of keep that narrative going so that people feel like, oh my goodness, this is a scary thing. But here is the hope. Here is what we can do in order to stop that. And then we have people who are along the way saying, yes, as you do these things, here we can win this. So I think that that's what I think is missing
right,
in terms of the overarching work, not just in our party, but even in our grassroots as we try to do this work, is that we have not connected the dots all the way in terms of understanding that fear is powerful. It's short
right.
term if you don't keep it going, but it is powerful, which is what Linda Hersham says all the time when she says, make injustice public. And to me, that is how we have to think about this in 2026 in terms of what is in front of us. I don't know. Your thoughts?
No, I know. I mean, I think Jesus, I mean, there's so much to be afraid of that I feel like maybe people like in the sense of that tightrope again, like every day we just see this crap that's so crazy and this man is so crazy. So it's like, yeah, it's like you would think that enough people would hire seeing that would have their fire in the belly to do something about it. So it's sort of this disconnect. And I wonder why it's so important, like we talk about when more information gets out there, or like really when you see how people are just trying to like put out those scary things that really make people understand their part in it. You know what I mean? Um, and then who is doing and I. So I'm wondering, like tonight, when you're on this call, this big group that does this kind of work, and you're wondering what they're not getting, like what would you have thought to say to them, like to make them understand the moment? Did you have where you're sitting there? I'm sure you were just chewing your pencil, going, "Are these people really getting it?" Like, I mean, there's activist work, and then when we're in nonprofit work, people are so different, you know. So,
Yes. Yes, that's what I have found is that nonpartisan work is very
uh
different. And I think that it's very different because it doesn't want to offend and it wants people to feel part of it. I think what I think though is that this moment is bigger than all of that.
right,
I think that, the American people, most of us haven't recognized how big the moment is, and I think inside of that moment, you have to sort of figure out um, who the audience is that you believe is gonna be open to your message and to what you have to say, and I I worry about it because I was at an event yesterday. I went to an event yesterday, and I did get a chance. I had my little cards that I wanted to give out to people, and I was able to give them out to some. I didn't want to take over someone's wonderful wedding, engagement party and
and I
say,
when you get up on the mic when they're getting married,
yeah,
"Hey,
I did.
everybody,
I
we're all
wanted
gonna die. This wedding is really
Yeah,
wasting
I
time."
did. I did wanna stand on the table, but it wasn't the place to do that, but I
I
did
know, I'm
and
getting it.
I wanted to get on the table, but there was one person that I did have a conversation. We were sitting, we were just chatting about stuff, and she said, "I'm afraid."
Wow.
And I said, "Whoa," I said, "Geez, it's really nice to find somebody else who's
As
actually
scared as
afraid."
me, I am, right?
As scared as I am, but we were able to have that conversation and figure out how she can plug in and the things that she can do. But the good news is that is important to know that that is what moves her to action is
Right,
fear, and the hope part is what she can do and what she's thinking about. And I think what I'm trying to get at is, and we say this, if your hair isn't on fire just a little
right,
bit, you're not paying attention. And what I would say about 7 people out of 10, they just have no idea. But keep in understanding is that this movement that this administration is doing, like
yes,
all the others, is in slow motion. It is like the frog in boiling water, and that
right.
is
That's
where all
yeah,
these
yeah,
folks are. They're the frog in boiling water, and what we have to do, our number one job is to let them know that the water is boiling and then give them what we have to do and then what we see in the future, and that is what's missing, and every single day that that doesn't happen, we're losing time.
yeah, and, I have a lot of things in the back of my head when I wanna think about our partners in this and why I get frustrated because Oh, because I can just bring up a couple things about we're attached to the Democratic Party, but I'm gonna go back to one thing. If people were tuned in on Friday, we had Sam Rassoul on who talked about the party, and he said, "Look, the Democratic Party is just it's not really a organization as it is a bunch of coalitions, a bunch of groups that are tethered together and not very strongly in some areas, and that's why you see them move around." So then you're always like, "Okay, what is the kind of party's reaction to this? Why don't we see more?" We know that ongoing complaints around that. But I'd like to bring you back to this, and if you don't mind, because it is a topic that I think when we started out with Lauren and Black Virginia News and what you just read about Black people in this country, when you talk about fear and you talk about a group of people that were brought to this country, fear was always a part of this whole, let's just say, evil and tragedy when you're talking about kidnapping people, bringing them here. So and why I feel like this conversation is important because I feel like when we talk about what you just read about who is really right now coalescing around what's happening. I mean, it's unfortunately, we need more white people being just as afraid. But you would think that what you're just saying about I'm interested in your thoughts of that and what Lauren is talking about showing we've always been the people that move the ball. And that's a heavy burden. We talked about that after we saw how much we were disappointed at Harris loss and how much we got disappointed in people that didn't vote that way. But when you talk about, people that really understand where we're at, have lived it, have the genetics all the way through, the feeling almost built in their DNA, do you think what Lauren and what you're trying to say is that you think this mobilization, one, is key to the survival of this country, which I have a feeling when I see who's fought for it, who stood on the table, like we talked about Senator Oliver, that this is a big part of the story of how we're gonna maybe get through this. What you know what I mean? We talk about, like, is it white people that aren't as afraid and that's the problem? Because they're living like, let me bring this up and you'll understand. When people were criticizing Spamberger for not voting on this, saying, "We have time, we have time." I saw a really good article about people that talk that way. Martin Luther King said, "We can't wait for the perfect. We have to just move the ball." And when we wait for the perfect, sit down and wait, that's a problem. So all of that's a lot I just laid out. But I'm wondering when we talk about moving a mass of people based on emotion, who's really connected? And that's why more people, being in that space of being impacted will maybe move the ball. But do you know what I'm trying to say? And I'm not really sure. I'm just sort of throwing it down because it hit me in my gut, like all this churning and all this problematic stopping of certain people that we,
So
yeah.
so here's what I will say about all of that, and I will go back to,
Mhm.
Frederick Douglass. No,
Yeah.
no, no, excuse me, James
I'm
Baldwin.
gonna say something. Deborah Wharton just said, "Fear is my greatest catalyst."
Yeah, there you go. 2 things I will say is that, James Baldwin said that voting is a complicated
Yes,
risk,
yes.
and what I think is that people have just not understood what is happening. Um,
I'm gonna push back
so
real quick.
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no, 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 so let me
Good.
just say before you push back,
I talked
before you
about
push back, people have not understood what is happening. If they understood what is happening, we would not be here. If they understood what was happening, California wouldn't have, you know, Democrats running to a point where they would risk giving
Yeah.
Republicans power in California. Not one single one of them have said, "I'm gonna step out because I wanna make sure that there is not
Oh,
a
that's it.
Republican,
Yeah. Okay,
not a Republican running California, one of our biggest states in the country." These Democrats who are running are willing to take that risk.
yeah.
I'm just saying, if you understand the moment that we're in, that would not
Yes.
be an issue. It is the same thing with what is happening in Virginia. I get it. Listen, nobody is perfect, but
Right.
what is bigger right now? You tell me one single thing in Virginia that is bigger right now than
Then this
us losing in
election.
2026 election. If you tell me that thing, I'll stop what I'm doing
Yeah.
and just focus
No,
on that thing.
I agree with you, and I think we're kinda talking around the same thing, is that it's not just that thing, like what happened in Virginia. It's just that when you said that, I don't think people know, and I agree, there's maybe the political level of power where people get in these primaries and are not being strategic and no one seems to be working it out. But I have a feeling that regular people, when we say they don't know, I think a lot of these people that didn't vote or do know. I just don't think it will hurt them or impact them. So when I think of, like, sort of all these white women that during the Trump time that voted for Trump, they knew what was happening. They saw, I mean, and the second time, how could you not see all the deportation crap? So they do know. And a lot of people just either ignoring it or they really, really don't think it's going to impact them. So I'm going to tell you a little story on why I think. Well, let me, you respond to that. And then I have a thought about it, but I think it's more a willful ignorance.
Blindness, willful blindness.
Yeah. That they just go, you know what? I've talked to people that, like, voted for Trump even though they care about women's rights and reproductive rights, but they're like, "Oh, I don't never believe that's really gonna happen. I think I'm gonna vote this way because I don't know, I'm economically have stock in this company." I think we're there and there's a real will for also greed. But when you say, "I don't think people know," I think there are some people that don't know. They're really kind of
I think that the people that you're talking about are white people who are well-to-do.
that's what I mean. I'm saying that we're talking about fear and stuff, so we gotta
So
figure
they
out
don't have any
fear.
fear.
That's right. I'm saying to you, they really don't think something's gonna happen to them. So I think our biggest job is for finding those people to scare the shit out of them.
I think so. This is the other thing, like,
Yeah,
and this is where I think knowing your audience is important.
yeah,
Knowing your audience is important. And so like when people say to me, "Oh, we're gonna have Kamala Harris, or we're gonna have
right.
Cory Booker, or
Oh god, right.
my boyfriend in Baltimore, Wes Moore, run for president,"
Yeah,
and I
mhm,
think that they're all very capable people. I just think, are white people going to vote for them? Yeah. So, are white women going to vote for him?
Yeah.
That I think that's the we talk about this all the time, but the end of
Race
the
is the
day is
biggest indicator. Mhm.
black people can't do it by themselves, and
No,
so
they
the question
can't.
is, are white people 55% of white women voted for Trump. You cannot have any good reason for voting for Trump,
No, you can't.
especially when you voted against a woman who was more qualified. You cannot be a person who is paying attention and look at this administration, which is one of the most corrupt, one of the most incompetent
Yeah,
administrations of ever
of
in our
anybody.
lifetime, and be a person who is voting conservatively or voting for Republicans and say, "Yeah, I get it." You cannot be a person who is sane or intelligent or who is
Right.
not some part of racist and say, yeah, I get this whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, and we should not be working with DEI, when most of the time they cannot even explain to you what
What do you I
DEI is and what it means. So what that says to me is that your bottom line, the thing that's most important to you, the reason why you continue to vote this way is because you somehow believe that it is an advantage for white people.
Well, it is, and I think for it's the people in power, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I think that there is, with the very beginning, when you talk, so we're talking about the wonderful history and the amazing. America wouldn't be the great place it was if it wasn't for that Black people were part of this culture. We wouldn't have a lot of wonderful things. It's, the unfortunate story about people, how they got here, and you think about indigenous cultures and all that, but there's something to this kind of thing that we talked about this before, and what a burden it is, and people get pissed off and they don't want to participate anymore. They're like, really? Black people say, I have to do this again. At the same time, I think that's what it's actually saving our country and making it great, right? And I think there's this a lot of this. I'm just trying to figure this out a little bit because I think there's something interesting here, right? And when you said like nonprofit people that are involved, we have to step up the game, and they're trying to figure out. There is enthusiasm among groups that are centered around, you know, groups like the sororities and fraternities. Black sororities and fraternities are more engaged. We see a lot of outrage going on. I'm curious about how that will bubble up in different ways where people thought, screw this place. And now you see people really understanding when you see the South being erased in the voting rights, and there's a real, real fight there. But you see, like, Ken Paxton still getting elected, and you think that you can't believe that some of these Republicans are still voting for this, operating around this, and you just think, "Is the dam gonna dam broke?" Because what are they really, really trying to support? It's not America. I don't know, it's something bad, but I do think overall it is a corruption, and, I don't know if anybody here today, and I'll bring this up because I found it so interesting. Heather Cox Richardson posted today. Did anybody read it? Johnstown flood. Have you ever read that in your history book about the Johnstown flood? Well, why
No.
it's so important, you don't have to know it. It's one of the worst floods in history. It killed over 2,000 people. It's in a Pennsylvania town not far from my town in Youngstown. And why I know about this flood is because my family that came here, my early part of my family, were impacted by that flood. Okay. They actually migrated up to Youngstown because Connellsville, where this happened. I mean, when you talk about back in 1889, 2,000 people died in a flood. That's a lot of people, right? What that story is about is the 1889 in this country, where all these rich people, the Mellons, the Carnegies, right? They were amassing all kind of wealth in this country. It came into the golden age. A lot of things weren't going right for this country, and that's where we're at now, right? The rich, the billionaires, the corrupt, and we clawed back from that. And I think we're sort of struggling with the same thing of the corruption. And what happened in that story is the rich people built their stuff on top of their lake. I'll just make it simple. On top of the mountain, that water came crashing down and killed all these people. You just have to read. It's an amazing historical story for a lot of reasons. The billionaires, the rich did this. The money people created this mess, and all the working class were down here. All the rich people are up here, and they were never held accountable for those deaths and what they did. And those people went on to run for US Treasury, Knox. A lot of them ran for like off higher office. They were never held accountable. So the story is always the same. It's sort of like when you talk to people about the rich taking advantage and the corruption, I'll say it again. Those stories, and she talked about it because the anniversary of it, those stories move policy, and they move people, and they make a difference. So when we tell those stories and we talk about that, I think even with fear and what's going on. It's the same story of this country. The rich and the corruption's out of control.
So so let me respond to that. Uh, what I think is exactly right, because that's what it really is about
Mhm.
storytelling.
Right,
And it has to, and the story has all of these different parts, right? You have a story that has, the what how it starts, you have the villain in the story, you have what the villain has done, and then you have someone who comes and sort of helps the people give optimism and hope, and then they save the day. What saves the day?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that is the story that we have to tell, but it really is built on fear, because fear gets the attention. It can't
yes,
stay there, but
right,
it gets the attention. And what I
absolutely,
am simply saying is that we haven't told the stories enough to put it together. That people don't know history. We make fun of people and call them elite if you try to be educated. We
right,
do all of these things. We take off comedians who make fun. We tell we not
right,
we, but the Republicans, conservatives, whoever owns all this stuff is shaping and telling the story, and we have to do that now. If you were to ask me, what is the one thing that I would want right now? I would want us to put a story together, a story that sits people on the edge of their seat, that puts fear in their heart,
right,
that makes them want to sit up in bed at night like that train wreck, but it
yeah,
doesn't end there. And I want everybody to have that story, the same story, because no matter where you are, at the end of the day, for the country, the story will end the same for everyone who isn't part of the oligarch, who isn't part of the Trump family, blah, blah,
right,
blah. So we all need that one story, and it should just filter down, and every person should have that story in their hand. And what happens is, at the end of the day, we will find out who the audience is, who's going to move it. Because what I don't know today is there enough of us to change the story?
right,
Who is the audience? Is there enough? Because what I see in terms of the slop on Twitter, the slop that I see in people who are
yeah,
responding back,
right,
it's
mhm,
hard to know who the good guys are. And what we should know before this election starts is, do we have enough good guys? And we don't know
right.
the answer.
Well, we have a few in the room with us tonight. We're glad we had some people come on this beautiful day, but I do think it is what I say that our thing that we work every day on is trying to figure out the answer and the breakthrough. And you're making me think about this story thing. That's almost like making that little story, what the sort of story little books that you what did we talk about the other day when we were oh geez.
Talking with them, yes,
Oh,
a little
Chris
storybook.
Christopher Armitage talked
Ye
about when we interviewed Chris, that was really fun. Maybe have him on the Sunday sit down. It was almost we talked about evangelism, that this work is going door to door, and I feel like I have my little book here, my constitution, but these little type books where you go door to door and you do he was talking about it does feel like a little religious because the way you really need to do is like you say, knock far and right, it's wide. It's almost like you gotta bring your zins out, your books out and say to people, "Have you heard this story?" It's a little weird and but I think it's the thing that we do when we bring our nuggets and get comfortable to walk up to people and talk. And I think like even why Heather Cox Richardson is so impactful being a historian is because if you think about what she did when she told that story, she told a story. It was a historical story, but in the end, the analogy is what's happening today. It's the rich. They don't care all those people at the bottom that died were the steel workers who were making all the metals work, all the little private homes they had on top. They escaped all the dirt and the coal. They were way above the pristine lake they built. They had no care about that dam. They did everything that was wrong about caretaking. And in the end, that's what's happening now. And we have to let people know it's sounding that alarm. It's like you were at the bottom of that hill. When that shit goes down, guess what? Those people all have a plan to leave. They already have a plan to leave, and you and I will be stuck here with the cleanup. And I do think when the fear comes in, it's that kind of stuff to get people motivated. And it actually takes a really bad accident when people say, okay, we really have to fire everybody and get rid of people. But in the end, it's really those people were never held accountable for what they did, and, I think it's actually a good analogy, but the better part is storytelling and how impactful it is.
Yeah, I think so, and I think when I was listening, to the to the thing this
Right.
weekend, it felt like, which is important,
Mhm.
that everybody would have a different story based on their
Right.
community, blah, 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 blah. And I agree with that completely. But I still believe that there is this story that needs to be told about the country, that
Yes.
people need to understand that it's bigger than that. Because what I say is if gasoline prices come down before November,
Then what?
if
Mhm.
grocery prices come down before November, then what does everybody say? "Oh, well, yeah, Trump is great, and it is working just like I thought it was." And the point is that, that was just luck. And what about the
Yeah.
lies that were told, in Iran? "Oh, we got rid of all of their nuclear stuff." Well, why are we still there? Because you said in the beginning that you had
Yeah.
destroyed it all. And so, but we let stuff lie. We when something happens and then it just goes away. And the point is that you can't go let it go away. You have to keep building the narrative around the Epstein
Yeah.
files, around all these things. We have to keep it in view because they keep us in view every single day.
Well,
And I will also
great.
say this, and you know how much I love Joe Biden, no matter what. You can say whatever. Joe Biden, I
Okay,
love
you're
him.
allowed to feel the way you want.
My love is real. And so, but then I'm thinking, if everybody understands what's at stake, why Joe Biden got to come out with a book right now saying all the stuff that she's saying? This is what I
Wait a
mean when
minute.
I
Wait,
say
wait, wait, wait. You're telling me Joe Biden came out with the book. When
not
was the
Joe,
book?
Jill.
Oh, Jill freaking Biden. Oh, seriously? That really irritates me. I didn't know that. So now you got me all mad.
So now I'm
Who
getting
wants
you
to
mad,
read
but
that book?
only because of the stuff that we do, and I'm thinking
Wait, wait, wait. What was the book called?
we're just regular folk, and so if we're just regular folk, how come we can figure out this stuff? Like I don't know why we came out with the autopsy. If you weren't going to bring it out, just leave it where it is. Let people complain about it. But now we're just back to 2024 again. We got Jill Biden's book, and I'm
Jill,
just saying, if
what
people understand the moment, if they understand how important stuff is, then let's stay focused on what
oh
I
my
call the
god.
North Star,
People
and
are
we're
just
just not there.
really self-centered because literally going in the midterms and you're gonna relate and I didn't realize that she has a book that's going out right now, like, what is the matter with people, like, that they feel they have to be the center of everything, and, now you're getting me all riled up because now
Okay, now you're so good. That's my
oh, I'm mad,
intention.
and, like, we only have a few more minutes, but I'll mention something funny. Anybody here from Virginia, they last week I don't know if you got to see this, but they had this thing online, it was the Democratic Party. They were, having a competition or challenge, who wants to be the state to be the first primary. Did anybody watch it here? Anybody? Okay. Somebody in this room I know watched it, but so each state like Nevada, they wanna be first, right? And so you have to go in front of the panel because this is what our party's doing, by the way, okay? And you have to tell compelling reasons and fill out application why you think your state should be first. So I was listening to it. So Virginia was there and they were trying to make their case about why Virginia would be great first and our DNC our party chair was up there talking about it and I was sitting there going, I was thinking to myself, now they didn't mention the grassroots at all. Like they mentioned the reasons why we have elections every year and we're good at it. And because we won so much, that so you have our party chair going out to argue why they should be first. I thought, son of a bitch, it better not award it to Virginia. I'd be so mad because you know why everybody? Because guess who's going to be doing the work? It's going to be us, and they'll be because they should have said to win this over. We're the Democratic Party of Virginia. We flipped this blue and we have the best grassroots infrastructure here. Now, they did say rural ground game one time because, he does know about that. But, the idea, could you imagine if they would have went on and say, why we're the best is we have built this amazing muscle all across the state. We work with grassroots. We're already ready for this. So we'll be most exciting place for any presidential to start. It was again, people like, go write a book, I guess, about what you've done in Virginia and leave us out. I was just like, what a bunch of just hooey nooey. I was just mad. I was like, yeah, Lauren was watching it too. We were talking to each other. She's like, you I'm like, seriously? So, look, this is a serious moment, and I think if we would come up with a commercial, I was thinking like you did, is if we can tell a short, like, 60-second commercial. The Yes campaign had a pretty decent commercial that kind of had enough of even though they actually had a pretty good one that you would be able to tell people. Because I'm telling you what's scary is those detention concentration camps where they're putting people. And you know what? They're not on the news enough. What's happening to people inside? We need to get that out, right? And then you get out there, all the people like even Tim Miller on the Bulwark, they're going after, they want to sue everybody. We need to make sure we have something that just shows that contrast, that shows the contrast, not just about Trump, what they're doing to the American people, economy, to our lives, to our climate. We need to get the story to show it. But the problem we have right now is shaping the Democratic side of it, even though we know we're doing, like in Virginia, all this wonderful stuff for people, but we're getting clouded a little bit. And when Jill Biden goes to write a book, the concentration and focus is sort of off for the upper elite, and it will be up to us to center people.
So I think in all fairness, even though we're over time,
Yeah, my
I do need to tell you what she said so that you can just be done with it already. So I'm gonna take you
look
right
at me.
over
I've
the edge.
got my face too. I'm like, you.
Alright, so you ready? So she
Mhm.
says, during the debate that Joe Biden had with Donald Trump, she
Yes.
thought he was having a stroke.
She thought that somebody drugged him.
She thought that he was having a stroke.
Shoot, really? That's something. Well, I would think he was having a stroke. It certainly looked like he was having something. Now I'll go back, we'll just say this on this close. Oh yeah. Virginia was the only state with no women on the presentation team. Okay, now you had me at F you, right? Like I'm like hey, wait, the double bird. I got the double bird up. So how can you do that, right? Like, how could you have a presentation? First of all, like when you look at the grassroots, and most of us are all women doing this work. And it also gets me mad that a lot of our Congress people we're losing women at the top and all that. But yeah, that is crazy talk. So going back to the whole thing with Biden, and it's a darn shame, and it will tell you the problem we all have, anybody, and that's Joe Biden too, is ego. And that when you're in politics, and that goes for anybody, governor, you can be in charge of your party. You can be the charge of Network Nova. You have to have people around you that are willing enough to trust to say to you, okay, it's time to do this, or you need to see this. And you need people willing, when you're in this kind of business, to let people tell you the damn truth. And Joe Biden should never run, and we would be in a whole different place. Not blaming everything on him, because we don't know what happened. There could have been a million things that happened if he didn't run. It could have been worse. We don't know. But what we do know is that with people in power, they start to lose and get untethered. And right now, we need people focused.
So yes, and so I don't know how we go over all the time.
I was
So
going
so
to wrap us up
s
early, but I
I
wanted to tell that story, and then you got me
so
mad. It's your fault. You brought up
it is
Joe Biden. You brought up
it so let me say this,
got
and
me mad.
I did because I thought you'd get a kick,
I
but
did. I'm
here's the thing.
teasing you. I'm teasing.
I thought you'd get a kick out of it, but here's
I
the
do
thing.
too.
When they keep talking about this, there is a whole bunch of things in the autopsy report and any
Yes,
kind of reflection that you do and
right.
what we can fix. What we can't fix is the fact that he ran. So talking about that doesn't do us any
Well,
good
it does do good. I
be
disagree with you, because we see people do it all the time. Don Beyer, maybe he needs to like have a woman come up behind him. We love Don Beyer. It's a conversation is not about Joe Biden. It's learning from something. One is
exactly,
that's all.
exactly. So yes, but they still don't do it. I mean, just
I
think
know.
about it. They still don't do it. And what's worse is that people are afraid to topple them. So everybody knows
Right.
that Schumer shouldn't be running. Is
I
anybody going to
know.
run against Schumer when the time comes? No. Is anybody going to say I'm going to
Yeah.
run for a minority leader or
Right.
whatever? If no, so people have got to stop being afraid and stand up. It is the same thing for the DPVA. It may be that someone doesn't win, but if we think that the work isn't getting done the right way, then people should run, and we should
Yeah.
be okay with people running, and they shouldn't be afraid and shouldn't stop running if they think that they can do a better job. So I think the whole point is people have to stop being apprehensive about
Yeah.
doing stuff, and if they believe in something, at least it brings the conversation so that you have expectations
Right.
about what the person is gonna do and what their vision is for the thing. Even if
Well,
you know you're
I
not
get
gonna
it.
win, someone should always be there so that we have expectations about the vision.
Yeah,
What is your
exactly. What
vision?
is your vision? So I think like when and Lauren Burke said, we need to be focused on winning. And
How can you see Lauren stuff? I don't see anything that Lauren
I'm
says. How do
looking at
you see
live
it?
chat. I'm looking at the live chat in there, but so I just feel like Spire has 5 opponents. I know Lori has 6. People are running, but you see what they do and they start positioning the front runner for raising money and, you know, I think we need really good people to come out of the primaries, but I think overall, like you said, it's having that winning strategy to figure this out, and that we hope that everybody's strategically always thinking about beating the monster because that's what we need to do. So we need to definitely focus on that. It's just those funny little obstacles that drive us nuts, like
Well, I think I think some of them are bigger than
yeah,
than they're
that's
not little, they're big obstacles, and I think I will just say this, people have to make sacrifices, for where
yes,
we are right now, because the end game is bigger than any one person, and it's bigger than any one off issue. The only thing that everybody should be laser focused on is winning these midterms. And nothing should take us off of that. That makes our messaging right. It makes how we frame them right. It makes us focus on the right things. It gets us prepared to be and stay on the offense. It makes us have the ability to not let crisis take us off track. And what I see from leaders and
yeah,
what I see even in the grassroots is that we get off focus. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about some of these things that happen, but we need to say, you over here, you're going to go and deal with this. You deal with this, you deal with this, and we're going to stay laser focused on this particular thing. Because, as I said earlier, you tell me one issue right now in this moment that's more important than November 3rd, 2026. And if you tell it to me, I'll be focused on it and I'll talk about it and I'll do all that. If
yeah.
it is not, I'm gonna need folks to get straight.
Yeah, well, no, I can't think of a better one, and it's almost feels like a really weird, like, disconnect. And there's a lot of good little things, we'll have to talk to Lauren. She has we're when you look at the primaries, I'm finding that really, really interesting 'cause I listen to some pods about it. I think the overarching thing is structurally I was hoping Schumer was gone by now, and I know, like, a couple years ago, talking to Senator Warner, none of them will come out and because of the establishment, how it works and say anything against it. They're like but it's like it's really hard to win the Senate when you have Schumer still there. I'll just be honest, it's tougher. I think we have a really good chance. There's some issues, but geez Louise, when you think strategically again, so this is the ego. Joe Biden wants to run again. Chuck Schumer doesn't look around at his shoe, I guess, and he doesn't think I need new shoes. It's like making meatloaf for your husband and he tells you he doesn't like it and you keep serving it. And you're like, isn't that good meatloaf? No. I mean, so it's like we keep doing the same thing. It's like, can't we see it, but they're so it's power and power corrupts. And I think with the billionaire story, that's the big message today. Like we really it's a problem
Listen,
when we want to when we want to win.
so I don't
Step up.
yeah, so I got the billionaires. This is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then we'll
Mhm.
be at 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
here's my last thing. If you said to me,
Okay.
for the Democratic brand, what would I care about? And I do care about the brand. And I don't and everybody who
Of course.
says, "Oh, don't pay attention," blah, 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 I care about the brand. I am a proud card-carrying Democrat, and I don't wanna carry around garbage, and our brand today is in the tanker, and if people who are in power truly cared about it,
Right.
here is what I would want to see. I would want to see Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and some other leaders come out and say, "We know the brand is not where it should be, and here are all the things that people tell us are wrong. And here is what we are committing to the American people that we're gonna do. We have a plan. It is called Roadmap to 2030, and here's what it looks like. And our first step in this roadmap is we believe that there should be a change in leadership so that people understand that we are changing what you perceive our brand to be. What would you like to say, Senator Schumer? I'm Senator Schumer, and I'm stepping aside. And
Yeah.
we're gonna bring in some new blood so that we can blah, 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 blah." And Hakeem Jeffrey says, "I'm staying, and here's why I'm staying, and blah, 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 blah. And here are the folks who we're bringing forward. Here is the teams that we're bringing forward, because we know that to move this country forward, these are the things that must
Right.
happen, and it cannot happen with a brand that is likened to a Republican brand, which are the most horrible people in the universe today." and we're gonna stand up for you, and we believe in order to do that, these are the first changes we must see.
Yeah.
I wanna see that,
Well, I
and
would like
then
to
I
see
know
that a
that
long
people
time ago.
understand that our democracy,
Yeah.
our freedom is on the line.
It is, and I think the problem is, like, with Jill Biden's book, it's all about timing and understanding stuff, and so that kinda stuff needed to happen a while ago. I mean, we forget all through the government shutdowns. I know people Kent's talking about Schumer a little bit. We'll have to talk later about that, Kent. But, oh my gosh, we have so much we could talk about, and I think as we talk more, we get more into it, so I think that's why we go longer. We start to feel our, you know, our time together is just so much fun because we start working through stuff. But I know we need to wrap. Both of us have to go back and make some meatloaf.
I'm not making meatloaf, I'm
I
still
know
having
you're not.
leftover
My
spaghetti.
husband won't eat meatloaf. I just said to you, I'm making tuna steak, but I'm laughing. It's like I feel like sometimes we keep doing that. It's like, you don't like meatloaf? Well, let me make you meatloaf for dinner. It's like, damn. It's like, come on, change it up a little bit. But anyways, I think tonight one thing we understand is that what we have on our hands, it's interesting in California with the billionaire running, but we all like our own billionaires, I guess, is money corrupts, the power corrupts up against that
And what
billion.
are you wanting to do, give away all his money?
I don't know. Yeah, give it to us. Need it. So I want to say thank you. And I hope Kent and Laura, we need to, we need to just we love you guys coming every Sunday. It's so much fun to see you. Friday, you gotta tune in for the power lunch. We have Dana Good. She does the government accountability. We'll be talking about the whistleblowers that she's protected. That's gonna be great. And, also Evelyn Brumar from Gaza de Brumar talk about LGBTQ community. We're going into Pride Month, and we're gonna start doing the primary stuff. So in Virginia, we're gonna and maybe from other states too, but on the following week, we're gonna have in congressional district, 1, I've been working on getting candidates in for that show. We already have in there, um, well, Tim Sawinski and looking to get hold of Shannon Taylor. We wanna get some of the town halls because guess what? I'm gonna tell you something really scary. Early voting starts for the
September?
for no, early voting starts in a couple weeks in June for the primary.
Oh, for primaries, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I gotta tell you, I'm not really focused on the primaries,
me
I'm just gonna
neither, but I
let
wanna
y'all
bring
figure that out.
But I will bring them in on the power lunch because it's good to talk to these people and see what people are talking about. I love to hear because 'cause I'm hoping on the ground people are one thing about a candidates, they're engaging on the issues. What do people care about?
Yeah,
Data
yeah,
centers are a big.
and that's why it's so important. I'm teasing, but yeah, but that's how you find out what people care about, and if you don't vote in the primary, don't be complaining.
Yeah, local stuff. Data centers are really big and stuff like that. So I think that's great. So
And I couldn't see comments, and so I don't understand
I
what
wonder
happened. My
why.
comments stopped moving, so I
But
don't know what happened there,
I
so
wonder maybe it's the way your laptop is, but if you go, yeah, that's kind of weird. We'll figure that out. But and also the Women's Summit. I just got Denver Riggleman. He wants to join us. We have Robert Hubble. Denver Riggleman's a trip, and people may have a problem with him. I like him. I like to talk about data, and he knows data, and he has the receipts on all those MFers on January 6th. So he's gonna come. He's excited to come to the summit. And so get your ticket. We have Robert Hubble coming. Robert Hubble is really talk about hope. Denver.
Michelle Hornish, Rachel
Wait,
Bitterkofer.
yeah, Rachel Better. So Denver will give you fear, and Robert Hubble will give you hope. Michelle Hornish will give us love and all kind of stuff.
Tell you how to make little stuff, big movements.
That's right,
Rachel
Rachel
Bitterkofer
Bitterkofer.
will give you the unexpected.
Yeah, I don't know what he wants. We've been friends for a while, Lauren, me and Denver. We had him on the show many times. I just love how he digs into the data and realizes that what's going on behind the scenes, and that's just scary. That what he knows kind of freaks me out. And so I think we need the fear and then the hope. So we're not sure how we'll put it all together, but it's going to be a great weekend, August 21st. So please get a ticket, support us. There'll be a lot of fun. And we have more people we'll be announcing. But yeah. All right. I'm going to go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We love y'all and see you next Sunday for this.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, everybody.